This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and so we recorded a podcast. Yes, a podcast. I'm not sure if this video will be up before or after, but The Reason Reborn is back, and we figured things out. We're getting our shit together. Life is not stable, but we're gonna make it go because fuck it. You only live once, and you gotta do the things that you love and all that good stuff. So, anyway, during the podcast, we kind of had a conversation about the Democratic presidential candidate race, and kind of went hard. So I feel like I need to do a separate video on my own just to kind of flesh out and qualify some of my stuff just on my own. Because I'm sure a lot of you are going to be pissed. But we did a lot of talking about Bernie Sanders and how his campaign has gone. And, you know, everybody who has been paying attention to politics right now knows that Bernie is not in a good place. He's down by a pretty healthy amount to Joe Biden. And when I say healthy amount, it's not like it's a huge, unbelievable number, but in the, when you look at it in the full spectrum of things, or better yet, looking at it from where the breakdown is. Right now, he needs to garner about 60% or more of the delegates that are left, and there are not a lot of huge delegates left, huge delegate states left. I think you have Ohio because Ohio postponed, and you have a lot of other states that haven't gone yet that could add a significant number, but he would need to get at least 60%. I would say he would need to just destroy Biden in those states. And the way that things are going and looking at how it's all shaping up, that's a miracle that's probably not going to happen. So you can damn near call the fact that Bernie Sanders is done. And hey, if he's able to come back, hats off to him, salute to him, to bringing things from the edge of defeat and getting a victory. But again, looking at the way circumstances is, you can pretty much say that he's done, even though he's continuing to campaign and to push, which I kind of wish he didn't, because I would hate to see it get to a point where he might even lose by a bigger gap, which is quite possible because looking at the state of things, people aren't as enamored with Bernie as they would like you to believe, or that he would like to believe. And it's understandable because and we got into this in the podcast. I wanted to get into it on my own because I feel like part of Bernie's problem is that he doesn't learn from his mistakes. He's a very stubborn person. He pretty much ran the same campaign that he ran last time, which he had some success. He came out and being something that was new to people and coming with his ideas that seemed extremely appealing and fresh to the Democratic Party, even though in truth and in hindsight, those are ideas that have always been brought to the forefront and that have been shared by multiple candidates over history. But it was just something about Bernie. I mean, and I can get it because Bernie is a very likable person. But he ultimately lost to Hillary Clinton. And he comes back in 2020. He pretty much runs the same type of campaign. And he's now looking at potentially losing by a bigger gap and not even making the same dent that he did last time, which is crazy. Because one would have thought people would have been even more geared up, especially with all the noise that his supporters made about how it was a travesty and how, you know, it was a conspiracy and how we're not voting, it's because we don't have Bernie and helping Trump get into office. Yes, I said that. You guys helped get Trump in office. And I will continue to say that because your lack of engagement in the political system, because you did not get the guy that you wanted. You didn't get what you felt you deserved, ended up being harmful. And I feel like it's going to end up being harmful again because, like Bernie, his his core base still hasn't learned anything. Part of the problem I feel like with Bernie's campaigning is that this all or nothing thing that he has, where it's like it's my way or no way, and anybody who doesn't feel the same way, like, and I'm not saying this is how Bernie feels, really. I'm saying this more towards his supporters. If you don't see things the way that Bernie see things, your problem, and you can't be dealt with. We're not working with you. We only work with people who lay down. It's the whole, like, you either are down with us or you're against us, which is not true, because we've seen in this whole process a number of candidates who've shared the same ideas as Bernie. Maybe not all in totality, but, you know, you could look at the different candidates within this race and say, yo, yeah, they agree with him on this. They agree with him on that. They agree with him on this. You know what I mean? They may disagree with him on some of his elements, but for the most part, you had a pool of people who were looking to progress the country in certain ways that were similar to his. No one wanted to acknowledge that, especially in the case of Elizabeth Warren, who I said numerous times is basically Bernie Sanders with an actual clear-cut plan and agenda on how she was going to work with others to try to accomplish her goals. Whereas Bernie, he has a lot of plans, but he doesn't seem to have a platform where he's willing to work with other people and willing to entertain ideas beyond his own, to, you know, create a relationship with anybody, because everybody else in the Democratic Party to him is just the establishment. I can't fuck with you because you're not like me. You know, which is dumb, because as a president, you're not a dictator. I know Trump makes people seem like it's that way, but Trump only has the power that he has because the Senate is willing to let him run rampant in order to get what they want. Because let's be clear, a lot of these ideas that he's like put out and has fostered are probably more entertained and given to him by people like Pence and, you know, others around him who are looking for that agenda. Sure, things like the crazy wall shit and all that, that's probably Trump, because nobody really wanted that. But, you know, the things with the businesses and all of that and different financial aspects and what have you, that's the core conservative people in the Republican Party who were looking to revert things that Obama did that hurt their pockets. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, he can't just do whatever the fuck he wants without a say-so from his bosses. And essentially, that's what Congress is, you know? So Bernie would have went into office and his bosses would have been like, yeah, you keep telling us we ain't shit and you want us to come to the table with you, even though you're not trying to let us be heard because you feel like all we're going to do is fuck shit up. It would have been hard. I feel like his presidency would have been very, very hard. On top of that, the way he campaigns to people, he campaigned to certain groups and demographics, but he tended to kind of not give the attention to other demographics as he should. And yeah, I get his whole vibe of we don't want to pander because that's just silly politics. But at the end of the day, when you want people to get on board, you have to address them individually. Like, I cannot say the same things that I say to my best friend that I could say to a female friend of mine, or that I could say to another friend of mine. I have to come and engage them in different ways and quote unquote pander to them if I want them to be on board with something that I want. And the, and the thing that drives me crazy is that, especially with his supporters, is you should know this offhand because this is what we do in life, period. As adults, you compromise certain things to, like, get to where you need. It's rare that you can find a person who's gotten any and everything they wanted with no compromise or no adjustment to how they think or feel. You know what I mean? But people act like fucking, it's that's not how life works when it comes to Bernie. It's just weird. It's so weird. And the thing that bothers me the most is that a lot of people who feel that way are people who could afford to feel that way, because at the end of the day, they're out there doing all the things they say they don't do, plus more. Like, I have an acquaintance that continually spits shit about people who don't support Bernie, yet he's a very capitalistic, person. Like, he is totally ingrained into the capitalistic lifestyle, but he's trying to pretend like he's some benevolent, socialist Democrat, which, no. But you can afford to tell everybody else they're stupid if they don't support Bernie, because at the end of the day, you're fine. You're not in it. Your skin in the game is different than most other people. And most other people are who Bernie's trying to appeal with, like the people who are struggling and all that. They don't want to hear somebody who's like going to talk the talk, but they don't feel walk the walk. And I think that's ultimately what it is with Bernie, is that a lot of people, especially minorities who haven't vibed with him, they don't really feel like he'll be able to get the job done. And I think people don't seem to want to acknowledge that. Like, a lot of us think that Bernie has good intention. A lot of us think that Bernie is like a very, very, we all appreciate Bernie and we all appreciate his ideas. It's just that we don't think that he's capable of getting the things that he wants because of how he operates. But no one wants to acknowledge that. And that's the problem that I have with this constituency, because they just seem to not want to realize that it's not that people hate his ideas or that they're necessarily fearful of this whole socialist word. Especially when it comes to African Americans. As I said on the podcast, sometimes we just hear you talking a lot of talk and we just feel like, you talk a good game, but at the end of the day, you're not showing me nothing that shows that you can back it up. And that's how I think a lot of people feel with Bernie. And that's why I think that he's not gotten to where he wants to be, because he has yet to adjust from what he did in 2016 to reassure people who didn't vote for him back then that, I am you can fuck with me. He's done nothing to switch up the conversation and make it more appealing. Because again, no matter what you think, especially when you're campaigning for an office, you have to address people in a manner that can be convincing and appealing to them. Call it pandering if you want, but at the end of the day, you do have to fucking give them something that makes them feel good about you. But again, Bernie just doesn't bend enough, I guess. And it's an admirable quality to be like that convicted, but sometimes you can be convicted to the point where it's very, very detrimental to you and can be detrimental to others. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people see, like, what I see in that, like, he's going to hit a brick wall because of how he's built, like, certain relationships. People still like him. A lot of people like him, but I'm sure a lot of people in the Congress also don't want to actually deal with him on certain levels because it's like, you don't like want to entertain any ideas from anybody, and you don't want to have no type of compromise. It's sad because this attitude that he has. Well, I don't think that he's like disingenuous and that he's as hard, as stern on it as he is. His supporters are probably the worst because they really don't think that this dude needs to do anything other than he does because they have drunk the Kool-Aid, and it's wild. It's wild. And it's sad because I would like to see someone like Bernie, which was Elizabeth Warren, but everybody didn't support because she actually knew how to, make adjustments, compromise, and be more fluid. I don't know. I don't know. It's wild to me. It's fucking wild to me, and it's annoying. And it's like, I guess this is it. Because if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, don't expect him to run again. If I see Bernie's ass trying to come out in 2024, at this point, with his age, he needs to just go sit down because he's a more effective senator. Even though, again, please somebody point to me some major legislation that he's done or some major moment in history other than give a good speech that he's made a significant impact on. Seriously. I don't, and I think that's the thing. Like, people look at his record and it's like, I think that's the thing. Everybody who supports him seems to just see and hear what he says when he's on the stage, and nobody seems to like really pay attention to what's going on in his history or his background. It's like everybody feels like this guy is this like huge, effective, powerful presence in Congress that can translate to the presidency, and in reality, he's not. But he talks such a good game that you feel like he is. So, and I don't think he's being insincere when he talks that game, but that's how people have absorbed it, and it's crazy. Funny, I thought I would get a lot more in on people, but I would feel like I was trying to be as diplomatic as possible. That being said, I already know how y'all gonna act, because especially you Bernie bros, because y'all cannot take objective criticism of a person is lost on you. If you, again, it's that all or nothing thing. You're either with them or you're against them. It's like, I'm not against Bernie. I don't agree with everything he does, and I may not feel like he is the best choice. Then again, both choices that we have right now are shitty. So, there's that. He's he may be the best out of the two. I'm not sure, because I just feel like both of them, their shortcomings are so so scary to me that but I guess that's what happens when you don't make it about the person. Because again, last thing I will say this, when it comes to Bernie fans, I feel like they don't realize that their passion for Bernie is more about the idea of what he is and less about the actual campaign or the actual cause of getting someone better in office and making things better. Because again, if that were the case, you would have looked at the Hillary Trump thing with a lot more objective eye and realized that she is not as bad as him. No one who's actually thinking and paying attention would have thought that or should have thought that. And I feel like it's going to be the same here because, again, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden at all. But considering and looking at, like, things from a mature, open-minded perspective, I could see him being a better choice for office than what we have now. And at the very least, things will maybe slowly grow a bit, if not completely change. And I'm good with the progress because, unlike a lot of people, I think I understand what being progressive is. Being progressive means to progress, to move forward. And it's not like you need to do everything at once. It's just like the ACA that some people criticize. It may not be the perfect thing, but it moves things forward. It pushes the ball down the field, and that's what you want. You'll keep pushing the ball down the field. Yeah, as long as Trump's in the office, you're not going to get that. So, but it is what it is. I ran it on for enough. So anyway, as always, you guys feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. It's your boy Blak making them out. Deuces.